The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis, in the car,
in the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning and welcome to Sunday with Michael Portillo, but this week with me, Christopher Hope. Coming up on today's show. Israel says the ballistic missiles used in the attack on the British-American military base on Diego Garcia were designed to hit European capitals, including London. I'll discuss that with my panel. Elsewhere, Sir Keir Starmer is set to convene a Cobra meeting tomorrow to address major concerns about the impact the Iran war is having on bills here at home. Ministers are increasingly alarmed at the economic fallout from the Iran war. What's the true scale of the energy crisis facing Britain? The Attorney General and one of the UK's most senior Jewish politicians, Lord Hermer, asked if Kemi Badenoch would object to a Jewish public prayer. She defended her Shadow Justice Secretary Nick Timothy after he labelled an Islamic prayer event in Trafalgar Square last week as an act of domination. We'll assess the political fallout to Nick Timothy's comments. And last night saw the premiere of Saturday Night Live UK. Today we're asking, has comedy lost its funny bone? All of that and much, much more. But first, your latest news headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Thanks, Chris. Good morning to you. 11:05. Our headlines. President Trump has threatened to obliterate Iran's power plants if the Strait of Hormuz isn't opened within 48 hours. His warning came shortly after more than 100 people were injured by an Iranian missile attack in southern Israel. Now, one of the strikes hit the town of Dimona near a nuclear energy research facility. At least 4 new waves of Iranian missiles have been fired at Israel this morning. Donald Trump's threat of a new escalation came a day after the US president spoke of winding down the war. In response, Tehran says it will target all American energy infrastructure in the region should the president follow through on his threat. Iran's blockade and attacks on ships in the Strait has seen oil prices soar over recent weeks. Only Iranian-approved ships have been transiting the waters. The government says Israel's warnings about Iran developing long-range missiles capable of reaching Europe are exaggerated. The Israeli military claims Iran has developed missiles with a range of up to 4,000 miles and that the 2 missiles used in the attack on the British-American military base on Diego Garcia were designed with London, Berlin, Paris or Rome in mind. The Housing Secretary, Steve Reid, though, insists the UK is safe.
Action. There is no assessment that I'm aware of that Iran is either targeting or could, even if they wanted to, target the UK directly. If they did, and there is no assessment of this. We have one of the finest militaries in the world, despite the fact the previous government admits they hollowed it out. We have one of the finest militaries in the world, perfectly capable of protecting and defending the United Kingdom, which is precisely what we're doing in the Middle East today, and why we've been able to take out nearly 50 drones using UK military capability in the region today. So don't underwrite and undervalue our military. They're one of the best in the world, and we should have full confidence in them.
The government's cost of living SAR says ministers should consider imposing a temporary cap on profits for energy companies and fuel retailers. Lord Walker, who's the executive chairman of Iceland Supermarkets, says rising oil prices could create excessive margins at customers' expense. He believes a temporary limit would prevent companies exploiting exceptional market conditions created by the conflict in the Middle East. The government will hold a COBRA meeting to address the cost of living tomorrow. Spies from hostile states who pose a threat to the UK's national security will face longer jail terms under new sentencing laws that come into effect today. Those convicted of espionage, sabotage or foreign interference will no longer be eligible for automatic release halfway through their jail term under any circumstances. They will instead have to serve 2/3 of their sentences and will only be released on parole if they are deemed no longer a threat to national security. And this breaking news just into us. A Kent police officer has died in the line of duty. PC Bradley Cork, who was 27, died yesterday, having been critically injured on Thursday. He and a colleague who remains critically ill in hospital were responding to an immediate call when their vehicle was involved in a collision. A member of the public who was in a second vehicle continues to be treated for serious injuries. The number of confirmed and suspected meningitis cases in Kent has fallen to 29. The UK Health Security Agency says the number's down from 34 yesterday after some confirmed cases were downgraded following further tests. The number includes the 2 students who died from the virus last weekend. Now, vaccinations are being offered again in Kent today. More than 8,000 have already been handed out. The Health Secretary, Wes Streeting's been told to act over and above scientific advice as pressure mounts to launch a mass vaccination campaign for teenagers amid the outbreak. The former head of the FBI, Robert Mueller's died at the age of 81. He was responsible for overseeing an investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 US presidential election, which Donald Trump won. Mueller was a decorated Vietnam veteran who also led the FBI in the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks. Barack Obama described him as one of the most respected public servants of our time, but President Trump said he is glad Mueller's dead. Finally, entering a football match without a ticket, otherwise known as tailgating, has become a criminal offence today, ahead of the Carabao Cup final at Wembley. Offenders across England and Wales will face a 5-year ban as well as a fine of up to £1,000. It comes after more than 5 years after thousands of ticketless fans stormed the stadium for the European Championship final. Manchester City will play Arsenal at 4:30 in that cup final. Those are your headlines. I'll be back with more later. Now, it's over to Chris.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Thank you, Aaron Armstrong. Now, Israel says the ballistic missiles used in the attack on the British-American military base on Diego Garcia, that's where the Chagos Islands are, by the way, were designed to hit European capitals, including London, Paris and Berlin. The Israeli military claims Iran has developed missiles with a range of up to 4,000 miles. Earlier, my colleague Camilla Tomley spoke to the Housing, Communities and Local Government Secretary Steve Reed about the government's approach.
Thank goodness we've got, as Prime Minister, somebody who's taking a very, very clear position that we're not being involved in the war, we're not going to be dragged into the war, but we will take part in collective defence with our allies. Now, as Iran has targeted has selected different targets to attack, then we have to respond. And that is why the decision was taken to allow the US to use British bases because of what is going on with the attacks on ships and the attempt to block the Straits of Hormuz.
Joining me now is the former Conservative Minister Tom Pursglove and the broadcaster and journalist Judita da Silva. To you first, Tom Pursglove. This headline in the Sunday Telegraph summarises what many people are worrying about, I think, this breakfast time. We remember back, don't we, to the Iraq War 2003. We were told we were 45 minutes from a missile being launched to hit London. That was found not to be true, and Labour never lived it down. This looks like Iran can do damage to London if it wants to.
Well, this is a very chilling parallel, isn't it, this morning that we're waking up to. And I think it is regrettable that we're hearing this in the terms that we are, rather than government levelling with the public about the realities of the conflict that we are seeing with Iran. We've got ministers dancing on the head of a pin in terms of suggesting that we're present but not involved. And it is very worrying. People will want to understand. And I think in terms of what this means, we need to properly understand that, but also in terms of choices. Yep. Because, for example, properly funding our defence capabilities is going to be ever more important in this desperately uncertain world that we find ourselves in. This is arguably Act 1 of the great tussle of the 21st century, because there are, tectonic plates in our international system that are often determined by strength. And I think we all know where Iran, Russia, China and others stand in that context.
Judita, this is a wake-up call for us, isn't it, in Britain? We thought this was a war being fought a long way away. We're worrying about fuel bills. There's a meeting the PM is hosting in his Cabinet Office briefing room A, Cobra, tomorrow, Monday. We thought it was basically a row about bills. This is potentially an issue that could affect lives in Britain.
In life, I always go by a piece of advice my mother gave me. When someone gives you bad news, be sure to always question the motivation of the messenger. Okay. So when you have this information, yes, it should make everyone sit up, but it's important that the British government kicks the tires on the messenger, because when you look at the Israeli government, particularly with Benjamin Netanyahu, I was a child in school when he began banging his drum about there has to be a regime change in Iran. They are an existential threat to us. They are developing nuclear weapons. It's 2026. That still hadn't happened. There is the proverbial biblical strain between those two countries, and it is Benjamin Netanyahu's desire that this war should persist. Now the problem is, who do you get on the allied forces? And you want people like France, Germany, and particularly the UK. President Trump's rhetoric has placed UK front and centre because of his constant attacks on Keir Starmer. Iran is watching because they believe the move that the UK government makes might domino across Europe. But what Keir Starmer has done is pretty much what I believe is all he could have done, which is in the beginning proclaim that we want no part of this, like so many other countries did. But when they moved and put British lives in danger, you have to be shown to be a country that is willing to step up to protect your own. When people then say you should have moved from the beginning, no, he shouldn't have, because actions need to match words, because Iran is constantly looking. That's why the foreign minister said, your people don't want this, do not get involved. So Iran is watching the UK and is going to retaliate.
Tom Pursglove, Judita rightly says there it's Iran saying that London, Paris and Berlin are at risk. Now, we know those missiles were launched at Diego Garcia in the Chagos Islands. We're giving that sovereignty away to Mauritius. Come to that maybe in a minute. But those weapons, one fell short, one was shot down by the US. We don't know how near they got to the Chagos Islands. We don't know whether what Israel is saying is right, and Israel do want to yoke the UK into this war, don't they? So are we not risk at doing what Israel want?
But I think, on the face of it, there is clearly evidence that would suggest that these are ballistic capabilities. Now, we absolutely need to get to the bottom of that. We need to have a proper understanding of what has gone on here, but we haven't heard about this from government. And I think that government needs to show some leadership on this. And when you talk about, for example, the NATO context, we've already got a US president who's very sceptical about NATO. I think the government's handling of this has not covered ourselves in glory in terms of trying to bolster that sense of feeling that he has about that relationship. And quite clearly, British sovereign territory is being attacked as part of these madman strikes that we've seen from the Iranians. Akrotiri. We're now hearing about Chagos. It would be disastrous strategically to get rid of Chagos.
Well, we'll come to that in a second. But
That's the realities that we're dealing with today.
And what are we finding out? For example, the attack on Akrotiri, we were told initially hit the runway. No, it hit a hangar. It went through the wall of a hangar. There are photographs showing that. Again, with these attacks, these missiles were launched on Thursday night. We find out yesterday because the US media reported it. Is there a risk here that if the UK government isn't seen to be straight about the risk to us, we start to not trust what they say to us, Judith?
No, I don't think so. I think what is being shown is that Iran is acting on the warning they have given to the UK. Because remember that we can't split hairs between we're doing this defensively, we're doing that defensively. All Iran says is if you enable the US, you are an ally of our attacker, so you are attacking us by proxy, so they will retaliate. And that is what Keir Starmer has to juggle, because look at the rest of the leaders, France, Germany, Spain, Japan. They're completely hands-off. They're not moving in any way that is, let us preemptively get into position. And that is why they're kind of out of the line of fire. The UK is dancing between both, and I do agree about that whole do-si-do that Keir Starmer seems to do, where it's one step forward, one step back. So which line are you taking? Take one line and stick to it, because Iran is watching, and they're going to use the UK as an example. If you are hands-off, remember that the strategic plan for Iran is isolate Israel and the US, isolate them from their allies. President Trump has been very condemnatory of NATO. You say they're useless, then you say they need them. You say Europe is a waste of your money, now you want them to back you. Pick a lane and stick to it.
Yeah, that's definitely right, I think. Tom Perscliffe.
I'm not sure that, you know, in terms of the timing of this, that this is something that I would have done if I'd been President Trump, because it's not clear what the off-ramp is. But we are where we are. I do think we should have, once the US had decided that this was something that they were going to do, we should have been more forthcoming in terms of making our bases available, rather than doing that in such a reactive way.
Edging towards where we are now. I mean, for defensive attacks, we're told, whatever they are, that's what we allowed it to happen.
But again, what does that even mean? We've got a Prime Minister who's completely guided by...
Hook, I think.
Well,
Iran doesn't care about rhetoric,
No,
so I think that is trying to repackage something when the contents only just point in one direction.
Yeah.
If you're attacking or enabling an attack, you're part of an attacking force, and that is what Iran is looking at.
Tom Perscliffe, I've got to ask you about the passing of sovereignty of the Chagos Islands, within which Diego Garcia sits, to Mauritius for around £30 billion over 100 years, most up front. Now, the Diego Garcia base will have a 100-year lease on it, back from Mauritius. Is that deal dead? Nigel Farage thinks it is. He says this: finito, gone, done. It's over, that deal.
Certainly ought to be.
Is it over, then?
Because strategically it makes no sense at all. And as Mrs Thatcher said in the 1980s, when she was confronted with US asking for support in relation to Libya, what is the point of having allies if you don't stand by them? And this goes right to the heart of that. The US administration rightly feel very strongly about this situation around Diego Garcia. There is no, to my mind, arguable case even to be going down this route. We would be paying significant sums of money to take off of our hands territory that we already own and that strategically would impact us adversely
the UK
in terms of being able to protect ourselves and our allies.
Talks about the use of transmission signals, that's in jeopardy. They talk about these legal cases we've lost in the international courts on this area. They say it's increasingly untenable. In fact, since Brexit, the EU have dropped their support for UK sovereignty over the Chagos Islands. So all those three things matter now.
I would make the point, though, that in relation to our strategic defence and our strategic security, not just the UK but our allies, you are confronted with threats that come from states that have no regard whatsoever for international law, no regard whatsoever for these rulings. I think it makes no sense to British taxpayers to be doing this, but we also ought not to be weakening our defence in this climate.
Do you finally, Judith De Silva, Donald Trump says they're ahead of where they thought they'd be in the war, whatever that means. I mean, how do you see this ending? Because it seems to be, it's just, you know, spreading so rapidly, so out of the control of the US.
There is a reason why successive American presidents have never wanted to go to war in Iran, because you know it is something you cannot comprehensively timeline or execute and contain. But because of, and I do believe they had their hand forced by Israel, and they've done so. Israel has played a blinder when it comes to sowing chaos into the region. what Trump has done is that whole thing about you break it, you own it. He's broken it and he wants to walk away, and he hasn't hidden that fact. What this might lead to is there will have to be back channels between Britain and Europe and the Iranian regime, because that is the only way you begin to have the conversation around the Strait of Hormuz, where you can make your case that we do not want this war, you know you do not want this war. How do we peacefully transition so our ships can get through? If you want to contain it to an Israel-US conflict, that can be done, but you can only have those conversations by back-channeling it diplomatically.
OK, there. Tom Pursglove and Judith Da Silva, thank you for joining us today on Portillo. And the next hour will come to the impact on energy prices. Now, coming up, Sir Keir Starmer is set to convene that Cobra meeting tomorrow in London to address major concerns about the impact this Iran war is having on our bills at home, petrol and energy bills, of course. What's the true scale of this energy crisis potentially facing the UK? This is Sunday with Michael Portillo, but with me, Christopher Hope, only, of course, on GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Welcome back. Now, before we move on, we are thrilled to announce that GB News Breakfast has once again been nominated for Best News Programme at the Trick Awards. We won this award, of course, for the past 3 years running, and we couldn't do it without you, our brilliant, lovely, loyal audience at home. We need you, if you can, to vote for us if you think we should win this year. Vote for us by scanning the QR code on screen now or by going to poll-trick.org.uk. Thank you so much for your support and for watching GB News, the People's Channel. Now, moving on, Sir Keir Starmer is set to convene a COBRA meeting, a meeting in the Cabinet Office in London, to address major concerns about the impact the Iran war is having on bills here at home. Ministers are increasingly alarmed at the economic fallout from the Iran war, with some suggesting that gas and electricity prices could rise by as much as £300. There are also warnings that filling up a tank of diesel could hit £100 by Easter. What's the true scale of the energy crisis facing Britain? The founder of E3G, Tom Burke, joins me now. Tom Burke, what should the government be doing? I mean, windfall profits taxes are something which the Tories did, of course, back in 2022 after the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Is it right, though, that they should be capping these the profits when they go up without dealing with it when the prices go very low?
Well, I think we've got a short-term problem, short-term depending on how long Trump goes on, but at least we've got to deal with bills right now, especially for poorer people. Bills are going to go through the roof, as you've suggested, and the government's got to do something about that right away. It's going to have to pay for that, and so if it uses a windfall tax on the profits because the price has gone up the oil companies are making, just to pay for the help to the people's bills, then that's a perfectly sensible thing. But this is the fourth time we've had a crisis like this. 1973, 1979, 2023, and now again in 2026. So we really do have to learn the longer-term lesson, which is how do we get ourselves off the oil hook?
And there's so much, isn't there, of the petrol pump price, which is tax.
Yeah.
A huge amount of it. I mean, it's hard to know where else they can go. There's talk about rationing petrol at the pumps, for example.
Frankly, I don't think, because we've not learnt from the three previous times this has happened, right now, all we can do is take the pain. Really, that's all we can do is take the pain, and how much pain there'll be depends on when Trump and Netanyahu decide to stop the war. And that's nothing we can do about that except help the people who are hardest hit. What we've really got to do is focus on not getting hit again.
And this meeting tomorrow, unusually, will have Andrew Bailey, the Governor of the Bank of England, at the meeting with Number 10's team, Sir Keir Starmer included. Why is that happening?
Well, that's happening because we're already very heavily in debt, and as this impact goes through, it really does affect the cost of money. So interest rates are going up, mortgage rates are going up. That means the government's having to pay more for the borrowings it's already made, let alone the borrowings it's going to make as it tries to help people deal with the immediate crisis. So it's a tricky time for the government, and at the moment we don't have really any sense of when it might end.
Is it time, yet again, I mean, with the right are always saying it, just opening up those oil and gas fields? I mean, I asked the Prime Minister this last Monday, Number 10, Downing Street press conference. He said we have increased tiebacks. They are trying to draw down oil and gas from existing wells, but not new licences.
I think that's a complete distraction, actually. If you're really wanting to deal with... I mean, if you're going to open up new oil and gas wells, you're talking about 5 to 10 years. Who knows where we'll be in 5 to 10 years. If you want to do something right now, 40% of the energy we use goes into buildings. What you can do is an awful lot to stop wasting the energy we're using right now. Second thing you could do, we spend about $1 billion a year paying our wind power to be shut off because we haven't invested in the grid in order to get the...
So what that means is because they're mainly offshore, that they can't get the energy they're producing can't get to where people are living.
Exactly
right. Middle of England or Scotland or Wales.
That's exactly right. And it's the cheapest energy. So that's what we've got to do in the immediate term. We've got to get the lost energy from buildings. 40% of all our energy demand goes into buildings. Stop that. We can do that fairly fast, as we can improve the grid fairly fast. What we can't do is get new oil and gas out of the North Sea fairly fast.
No, that takes years and years.
It takes years and years.
We look back, don't we, at Nick Clegg when he said in the early part of the last decade that nuclear is not the answer. And if only we hadn't listened to Nick Clegg back then and invest earlier in nuclear, we'd be in a different place.
Well, you're right, except that nuclear takes even longer than oil and gas. And what does do in the short term is stopping wasting energy, put a plug in the bath, and the second thing is get the electricity that we're already producing from where it's being produced down here.
Is the government slightly helped out that we're going into summer? I mean,
yeah,
they are, aren't they? Because it's going to be warmer outside. Doesn't help old people who can't get out. They will need the heating on, of course they will. But generally, there'll be less demand on the.
No, I think that's exactly right. I mean, again, there are lots of different bits of it, but that will help with the buildings, which are, as I say, 40% of all the energy we use is used in buildings. So exactly as we get warmer, good time of the year.
And you were mentioning to me off camera about your concerns about Iran and water supply. Well, no one's talking about that. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think that's really important because Tehran has already got a major problem with water, has a drought for years and years. If you hit its power stations, then it can't pump the water. So if you can't pump the water, you've really got... Now, we can live for a while without food. We can't live for very long without water. And if that happens, you can easily see Iran knocking out all the or trying to knock out all the desalination plants, without which the whole of the other side of the Gulf can't live.
What's your take on this whole debate here? It seems to many that Ed Miliband, the Energy Secretary, is just pursuing this ideal of making us completely reliant on green energy, which is a good place to be, I suppose. But in the short term, it's a huge sacrifice for many households.
Well, then you've got to make that policy right. But right now...
How would you make it right?
By doing what I've already said, helping people first and foremost with their bills. If we got the UK Investment Bank to lend money to people to improve the efficiency of their buildings, it would get bills down very fast, it would create jobs all over the country, be much faster than either building new oil and gas or trying to build new nuclear power stations. New nuclear power station won't happen for 25 years. I mean, that's a really big bet on knowing what the future is going to be like. So I'd focus on the things you can do right now to help people help themselves to get their own bills down.
Well, where will we be if this carries on? Will we be having 6-inch baths at home? Will we be having carry a jerry can in the car?
None of which will help.
Where are we
I mean, frankly, the idea that people can control failures of government by doing something in their own lives like that is silly. Changing their lifestyle.
Maybe some rationing of petrol, we're told.
Well, I think in the short term, you're exactly right. But again, as I pointed out, we didn't learn in '73 when this happened. We didn't learn in '79 when it happened again, when we got the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and it happened in 2023. We didn't learn. We're still trying to carry on building an energy system that can't cope with shocks.
So just fast forward to tomorrow, this meeting, there'll be calls for attacks on oil and gas, Shell, BP, maybe Centrica, which owns British Gas. Is that the answer?
It's not the answer unless it's tied and limited to helping poorer people cope with the bills they can't do anything about.
Yeah, so make it focused on them.
Make it focused on them.
OK, Tom Burke there, the founder of E3G. Thank you for joining us today on Sunday with Michael Portillo. Coming up, the Attorney General and one of the UK's most senior Jewish politicians, Lord Hermer, asked if Kemi Badenoch would object to Jewish public prayer. She defended her shadow Justice Secretary this week after he labelled an Islamic prayer event in Trafalgar Square, you're seeing that on screen, as an act of domination. We'll assess the political fallout to Nick Timothy's comments shortly. This is Sunday with Michael Portillo with me, Christopher Hope. Stay with us on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. We do have increasing cloud from the north today, but some hazy spells of sunshine after a foggy start in the south. And there will be a bit of patchy rain around, and that's in association with this cold front. It's a weak feature, but it will slowly push its way southwards through Sunday and into the early hours of Monday. So for this afternoon, cloud and patchy rain across parts of Wales into the Midlands, northern England. Either side of this, some sunny spells. Best of the sunshine and warmth holding on to southeast England. Cooler weather following for parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland with showers, which may be a little wintry over the higher ground here. Temperatures between 9 and 12 Celsius, but up to around 16 Celsius in the hazy sunshine across southern England. Into the evening time, a fairly cloudy end to the day across much of England and Wales. A band of patchy rain slowly sinking its way southwards, but still on the mild side. Temperatures around 10 to 12 Celsius. Brighter skies to end the day for parts of Northern Ireland into Scotland, with a scattering of showers here. Some of these falling as snow over the higher grounds. It's feeling colder here as the wind starts picking up during the evening as well. We could start to see some gales around the coasts. Overnight tonight, the cloud and patchy rain across England and Wales just continues to filter southwards but eases, and then it's dry for most of us overnight with clear spells. 1 or 2 mist and fog patches in places. A few showers still across the far north of Scotland, 1 or 2 of these on the heavy side, but the vast majority dry. Where we see the clearest skies, a patchy frost possible. Towns and cities generally a few degrees above freezing. So on Monday, a mixed start to the day, mist and fog in places to start, but generally dry for most with some sunny spells coming and going through the day. But it is turning cloudier, wetter and windier across the northwest through into the afternoon. Outbreaks of rain for Northern Ireland and northwest Scotland as well. The winds picking up. Temperatures in the southeast up to 16 degrees once again.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversations.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
the Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
Because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Sunday with Michael Portillo. My name, of course, is Christopher Hope. The Attorney General and one of the UK's most senior Jewish politicians, Lord Hermer, has challenged Kemi Badenoch to declare whether she would object to Jewish prayer in public. That comes after the Conservative leader backed one of her shadow ministers who said an Islamic prayer event in Trafalgar Square, you're seeing that on screen now, was intimidating and what he said was un-British. That mass prayer event to mark Ramadan took place on Monday evening in London's Trafalgar Square. Nick Timothy, the Shadow Justice Secretary, described the event as an act of domination. A few days on from that row, it's still raging. And what's the political fallout been? Well, earlier my colleague Camilla Tominey spoke to the Housing, Communities and Local Government Secretary Steve Reid.
What Nick Timothy said was nothing to do with that. If you looked at what he said, it was talking about domination because there was an act of prayer that was Muslim in public. He said nothing about women at that point, and he singled out Muslims in a way that he has not singled out Hindus, Jews or Christians for doing the same thing. Did he think it was an act of domination when the former Conservative Prime Minister Rishi Sunak held Hindu religious ceremonies outside number 10 Downing Street? Because he didn't say that then, did he? He's just come out and said it now, but Kemi Badenoch is too weak to point out to him that racism will not be tolerated on the Conservative front bench because she's terrified of Nigel Farage. And that's the truth of it. He's running the Tory front bench now, not Kemi Badenoch.
OK, Lord Wolney, of course, formerly a Labour MP called John Woodcock, but it was formerly also the independent advisor of the government on political violence and disruption. He joins me now. Lord Wolney, thank you for joining us on Portillo. What do you make of this row? It's nuanced, isn't it? And I think Steve Reid's got a point that the Tory defence of their criticism has changed from saying it was overall intimidatory to concerns about the fact that women were pushed to the back or not even included at all in this prayer meeting.
Well, perhaps on that particular point, but it is really important to understand that this is not about racism. This is about religion, and no one, however well-meaning that they are, should confuse the two. And I suppose my particular nuance in this is that I'm not convinced that the prayer in Trafalgar Square was an act of domination in the way that Nick Timothy described. However, these are valid things for us to talk about. There is understandably a focus on all religions, and particularly on the role of Islam in the country, and the way that there can be Islamist extremism who manipulate the faith of Islam as is practiced by millions of Muslims here and many billions across the world. And so, although I might have taken a different view on that particular judgment that Nick made, I do think it is deeply worrying that so many people are essentially rushing to the barricades and calling out Nick as a racist, as needing to be sacked. And actually, that does show that the fears that many of us have had that introducing new levels of protection around the definition of Islamophobia, even in its latest form, may actually inhibit us having necessary and important conversations about the role of religions, including Islam, in public life.
Well, Lord Morley, you make a great point. I mean, this issue, it's worth looking at the timeline here. Nick Timothy did his tweet on Monday. It then sort of bubbled away. And then in Prime Minister's questions, the Prime Minister raised this as a question, weirdly, of the Leader of the Opposition, Kemi Badenoch, when he wouldn't answer a question about Lord Mandelson and whether he directly spoke to him before he was appointed to be the ambassador to Washington. So it really has been Labour who've been trying to push it on. Lord Hermer's comments were released to us on Friday. They want to have that row. Labour do, and of course the Tories have to respond to that. You've got the PM saying that Nick Timothy should be sacked for saying this. Is that what you're saying there, that there's almost, if you criticise the Islamic faith, you should be sacked? Because that goes towards your point about the risk of having some form of Islamophobia law in this country by the back door.
Yeah, look, I mean, I've done communications management for past Labour governments, and you can sort of see what is happening here in that there may be some short-term political advantage for both sides, probably creating this row, and for Labour to move the conversation on from a difficult PMQs. And undoubtedly, there are also many people within the Labour Party who feel this really sincerely, but it is a really dangerous road to go down. And I would suggest the greater weakness that Labour has, and the bigger problem in the country, is this sense that discussion of Islam as a religion is off limits. And if you dare to criticise Islam, then you open yourselves up to charges of prejudice and racism and Islamophobia. And that is exactly what many leading people, including the Prime Minister, have done this week. That is really unwise, I suggest, for him, but also for the debate that we do need to have in this country. I do not have that sense of fear of Islam that I think so many people do. I'm proud to count a number of imams as my friends, and I don't think that the act of prayer was an act of domination. But we absolutely, it was a valid. It was a valid statement for Nick Timothy to make, and it's a valid conversation that we can have in this country about what the particular role of religion should be, and whether there is a unique quality to Islam which is not shared by others. That is a difficult and a nuance, but it's an important debate, and we shouldn't be shutting it down like this.
We're looking at footage there of Islamic Muslim women praying. Is that maybe why you think that Kemi Badenoch has moved into saying, well, why are women being separated at a public prayer event? Is that where they're going? So they're not there. The Tories now criticising the structure of the worship we're seeing on screen now, rather than the faith itself.
Yes, and you can understand why Kemi Badenoch wants to highlight that. I think that is a concerning element of traditional Islam. But again, look, we should remember that is not unique to to Islam. You have to different degrees and arrays. You have other religions, Orthodox Judaism, which has elements of treating sexes differently, and indeed even the Catholic Church. So look, even the Christian churches. These are important debates, but we should be comfortable in talking about this.
Yes.
And even if it takes us into difficult territories without immediately calling for people to be sacked and branding them as racist.
Yes. Just very, very finally, Lord Walney, in 2 weeks' time it's Easter Sunday. Of course, in 12 days' time it's Good Friday, when an actor playing Christ will be crucified when the Passion of the Christ is practiced or is acted out, I should say, in Trafalgar Square. Is that also offensive, do you think, to people, or is that different?
Well, I mean, it will be offensive, I guess, to some people. I think the point made by people like Danny Kruger that we do have a level of Christian heritage in this nation, and therefore Christianity is going to be, as the established religion of the country, the Church of England, is going to be seen somewhat differently. But I mean, broadly, my view on this is that if we can look at it in a tolerant and inclusive perspective, actually more religion in public life is probably better than less religion.
Yeah. Well, quite right. Look, Lord Walney, a really fascinating chat. Thank you for joining us today on Sunday with Michael Portillo. Thank you so much there. Coming up, Saturday Night Live UK, SNL UK, had its debut episode last night. Was it a flop or a triumph? And does it matter? This is Sunday with Michael Portillo, but with me, Christopher Hope. Stay tuned to GB News, the People's Channel.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. Storm Therese has been bringing some very unsettled weather to the Canary Islands in recent days, and we'll continue to see some strong winds and potentially some flooding here over the next day or two, particularly for the western Canary Islands, but there'll be some showers for Madeira too. Iberia, though, will settle down with plenty of sunshine for Spain and Portugal. 1 or 2 showers for the central Med, particularly southern parts of Italy, the Balkans, Greece and Turkey. A few thunderstorms perhaps as well. But the worst of the weather, the thundery showers at least, will be across Tenerife over the next few days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. It's GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis in the car,
in the kitchen,
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You.
That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
And we're back. This is Sunday with Michael Portillo. My name is Christopher Hope, of course. Now, last night, the much-anticipated Saturday Night Live UK, that's a UK version of the legendary US sketch show, debuted on Sky One. Let's have a quick look at what one of the sketches they started with.
Hello? Oh, sod that scary, scary, wonderful president. Why is he so blubber difficult to talk to?
Sir, just be honest and tell him we can't send any more ships to the Strait of Hormuz.
Oh, crumbs. I just hate conflict so much.
Are you referring to the war or this phone call?
Isn't there a way I can not do both? I just want to keep him happy, Lammy. You don't understand him like I do. I can change him.
That's George Fouracres with, I think, a quite good impression of Sir Keir Starmer. And believe me, I've interviewed him a lot for GB News. I know what he's like. Now, has comedy lost its funny bone? Is it too political? Comedian Jonathan Cogan joins me now. Jonathan, that was a good impression of Keir Starmer.
I thought it was spot on. He got the lack of movement, he got the high voice, the uncertainty. I think he nailed it. I saw that sketch earlier today online. I really enjoyed it.
Genuinely funny, actually.
Yep.
And that relationship being a kind of not one to annoy or irritate the US president is, of course, what we have now with us.
Of course, we're sort of, you know, we're kept men. We need to make sure our overlords look after us. We don't want to...
David Lammy was good there and others. I mean, my experience of interviewing Keir Starmer, and I do it about every 3 months for GB News, often on trips, is he doesn't move at all in the interview. So he's quite animated. Then the camera turns on and he does this. So this, like, when George Fouracres was doing this...
Is it stage fright or is Adderall kicks in? What is it?
I don't know what it is. I mean, it's like the Keir Starmer that you're seeing behind the scenes walks out of the room.
He's like a cool dude. He's high-fiving everyone. And
yeah, and you're left with this carapace. And I don't know how they're going to do that, because and in a world of communication, this stuff matters. That's how Zach Polanski does so well.
Yeah.
Despite questions.
Well, he gets by on his looks. That's what I think.
Looks, and he talks a great message. West Streeting too. These people, a lot about politics is acting nowadays.
Yes, it's true. Especially when a clip can go viral and make or break your campaign. That's, you know, you can fall off a dinghy, whatever the Lib Dem guy did. But yeah.
Yeah, that's that Dave you're talking about. But can I ask you, Jonathan Cogan, did you laugh once? A bit more than once?
Did I laugh once? I definitely breathed out hard through my nose. Like I was by myself. I don't really laugh when I'm watching comedy. Yeah, maybe sneeze.
It's easy to mock comedy because it's hard to get right, isn't it?
It's so easy to dump on, and there does seem to be a bit of a feeling in the air, because people are so despondent with the government, that you almost want anything that's part of an institution like mainstream television to fail. But I don't think we should want that. We want the culture to be great. We want comedy to be good, and I'm glad this exists.
Yeah, I am. I can't think of any other political sketch show on TV at all. I think Spitting Image came on and then left a bit recently.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we have nothing out there.
That's true. That being said, there is a host of great sketch comedy online, which is made by individual creators saying whatever they like, getting away with a lot most of the time. But to see it on television is wonderful.
And they're trying to make an event out of it, aren't they?
Yes.
There were other sketches too, one involving David Attenborough.
Yeah, yeah. Last Supper.
Last Supper, that was quite funny, I think.
It was good. Premise was they had very, very significant Britons throughout history having an interesting dinner conversation, and all they could talk about was whether they're going to share starters or not. Fun premise.
Yeah, it's good.
Fun.
That's good. That's funny, right?
Harmless, yeah.
Harmless stuff. Will it keep going? It's got, I think, is it 8 episodes on Sky One?
I think so, yeah. I mean, hopefully. I mean, obviously the American show is an institution. If we can recreate something like that, great. Like, not all of it was killer. The trailer was god-awful, I'll be honest, but I think...
Tina Fey, the American comedian, was the host this time?
Yes, yeah, and they have a different celeb host every week, and I'm sure they'll get some good people on.
We hope it works. Mm-hmm. Any tips for them? I mean, it doesn't need to be always political. I mean, some of the frustrations from the right have been endlessly attacked by left-wing comedians, and everyone has simply turned off that now.
Yeah, the orange man bad trope over and over again. I mean, that will wear thin. I mean, it has worn thin. I think just as long as you find it funny, as long as you're laughing when you're creating it and you think people are going to enjoy it. I wouldn't pander too much because I would say the country is fairly split down the middle politically, but yeah, just really go for new ideas and stuff that you think will surprise and delight people.
I like this idea about that you can see on the screen.
Oh, the Gen Z.
That means love heart.
Absolutely. Did it annoy you that it said Gen Z, not Gen Z?
Just Gen Z. Yeah. That's love, right?
I think so, yeah. I mean, Gen Z don't really know love because they're all addicted to...
I think it got that. When they brought on this YouTuber...
Yeah. The Gen Z consultant.
Yeah, this is what they call it influencers, don't they? They brought them on, and he was talking the street language or Gen Z language to Starmer. I mean, they are doing that a lot in Number 10, and we do smile.
Are they trying to coolify
Starmer?
Oh no, don't give in to the slang. We want just be normal. Just do good things.
Just do good things.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope it works, because sketch shows are funny. They've been funny in the past.
Sure, they are. I would say they're a big part of the English comedic tradition.
So do these viewers give it a chance?
Yes, give it a chance. Obviously, it's not as good as Headliners, which was a show on here that they cancelled, but what is?
OK. Jonathan Cogan, thank you for that dig at the end.
No worries, my pleasure.
No worries, that's also good. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
On GB News, thank you. That concludes the first hour of Sunday with Michael Portillo, but please come back and join me at noon. There's more to come. We'll be covering a potential temporary cap on profits for energy companies. The Prince of Wales disclosing he has a quiet faith, but not a regular attendee at church, and a new portrait of Nick Clegg, and, well, what do you think of that? And guess what? Are we rewriting the history of 1066? Find out more shortly. You're watching Michael Portillo with me, Christopher Hope, on GB News. We are, of course, Britain's #1 news channel.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. We do have some patchy rain pushing slowly southwards over the next few hours, and then it generally turns clear overnight, and for most of us it will be dry tomorrow. The patchy rain is an association with this weather front, which is pushing its way southwards, but most of us probably will just see increasing amounts of cloud as we head through into the evening time, 1 or 2 splashes of rain on it, but clearer skies following on behind tonight with scattered showers across parts of Northern Ireland and northwest Scotland. Some of the showers could be heavy across northwest Scotland, and a little wintry over the high ground too. Clearer spells following overnight with some fog patches in places as winds fall light across England and Wales, temperatures down to low single figures. So a chilly start again on Monday morning, a mixture of sunny spells and showers across northern Scotland. 1 or 2 of these on the wintry side, particularly over the higher ground. Temperatures near freezing in places, so a frosty start for some of us. Some mist and fog patches too. A rather cloudy start. Hazy skies across parts of Northern Ireland, northern England too, but largely dry across much of England and Wales, though fairly cloudy skies to begin with, some mist and fog patches and a fairly chilly feel out there, but this soon lifting and breaking to allow plenty of sunny spells through the day on Monday. The cloud increasing though across Northern Ireland into Scotland through into the afternoon. The wind picking up too as outbreaks of rain moves in from the Atlantic, so a wet afternoon to come here, but generally dry for England and Wales. Best of the sunshine in the southeast, temperatures lifting to around 15 or 16 Celsius. Cooler in the northwest with gales around the coast, temperatures around 9 or 10 degrees. And that rain continues to push its way eastwards across Scotland as we go through the evening on Monday. Some patchy rain perhaps for northern England too, but most places staying dry. Another fairly warm day on Tuesday, but then turning much colder into Wednesday as a northerly wind develops.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Everything you need to enjoy a super summer could be on us this year, as you could drive away with this very latest Benivan 4-berth camper van. This camper van is fully equipped with its own kitchen, bathroom, dinette and plenty of storage. We'll also get your summer sorted with a further £25,000 in tax-free cash that you could spend however you like. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck!
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis in the car,
in the kitchen,
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Good afternoon and welcome to Sunday with Michael Portillo, with me, Christopher Hope. Now, coming up in the second hour of today's show, the government says there are no plans to introduce a temporary cap on profits for energy companies. That's after the cost of living czar Richard Walker, the former boss of the Iceland supermarket chain, suggested it. More on that shortly. The Prince of Wales, our future king, has disclosed his quiet faith and commitment to the Church of England. But he doesn't always go to church, ending years of speculation about his personal religious beliefs. We'll dissect more on that shortly. And a new portrait of the former Deputy Prime Minister Nick Clegg has gone viral for all of the wrong reasons. What is the history of politics and portraiture? And do we really know what happened in 1066 at the Battle of Hastings? One researcher says that King Harold didn't march, but sailed to the battle. Find out more shortly.
Very good morning to you. Good afternoon, I should say. 1 minute past 12 here in the GB newsroom. Our headlines. President Trump has threatened to obliterate Iran's power plants at the Strait of Hormuz isn't reopened within 48 hours. His warning came hours after more than 100 people were injured by an Iranian missile attack in southern Israel. One of the strikes hit the town of Dimona near a nuclear energy research facility. At least 4 new waves of Iranian missiles have been fired at Israel this morning. Well, Donald Trump's threat of a new escalation came just a day after the president spoke of winding down the war. Tehran has vowed to irreversibly destroy all American energy infrastructure in the region should he follow through with the threat. Meanwhile, Iran's blockade and attacks on ships in the Strait has seen oil prices soar over recent weeks. Only Iranian-approved ships have been able to transit the waters. The government says Israel's warnings about Iran developing long-range missiles capable of reaching Europe are exaggerated. The Israeli military claims Iran's developed missiles with a range of up to 2,500 miles and that the 2 missiles used in the attack on the British-American base on Diego Garcia were designed to hit European capitals. Housing Secretary, though, Steve Reid, insists the UK is safe.
There is no assessment that I'm aware of that Iran is either targeting or could, even if they wanted to, target the UK directly. If they did, and there is no assessment of this, we have one of the finest militaries in the world, despite the fact the previous government admits they hollowed it out. We have one of the finest militaries in the world, perfectly capable of protecting and defending the United Kingdom, which is precisely what we're doing in the Middle East today, and why we've been able to take out nearly 50 drones using UK military capability in the region today. So don't underwrite and undervalue our military. They're one of the best in the world, and we should have full confidence in them.
The Conservatives have accused Sir Keir Starmer of attempting to cover up Iran's attacks on Diego Garcia, and they say the Prime Minister should come clean and explain why the public weren't informed sooner. Shadow Housing Secretary James Cleverly says it shows that the government's approach towards the war is wrong.
It makes a mockery of Keir Starmer's initial position that somehow by being passive that the UK and our interests would somehow be protected from Iranian aggression. We now know that that is nonsense. His unwillingness to allow the United States of America to use its own military planes from British bases has damaged our reputation, not just with the United States of America, but with a number of countries in the Middle East, and hasn't stopped us being targeted by Iran.
Now, this is just into us. The government says there are no plans to introduce a temporary cap on profits for energy companies and fuel retailers. It comes after Lord Walker, the cost of living advisor, said ministers should consider imposing one. He believes rising oil prices could create excessive margins at customers' expense and says a temporary limit would prevent companies from exploiting exceptional market conditions created by the conflict in the Middle East. Sir Keir Starmer will hold a Cobra meeting tomorrow to discuss plans to mitigate the impact of the war on the cost of living. Spies from hostile states who pose a threat to the UK's national security will now face longer jail terms. Those convicted of espionage, sabotage or foreign interference will no longer be eligible for automatic release halfway through their jail term under any circumstances under new laws that are coming into effect today. They will now have to serve 2/3 of their sentences and will only be released on parole if they're deemed no longer a threat to national security. A Kent police officer has died in the line of duty after his vehicle was involved in a collision with another car. PC Bradley Cork, who was 27, passed away yesterday after being fatally injured on Thursday. He and a colleague who remains critically ill in hospital were responding to an immediate call at the time of the crash. A member of the public who was in the second vehicle involved continues to be treated for serious injuries. The force say Bradley's bravery, dedication and passion for helping others will not be forgotten. Now let's turn to the meningitis outbreak. The number of confirmed and suspected cases in Kent has fallen to 29. The UK Health Security Agency says the number is down from 34 yesterday after some confirmed cases were downgraded following further tests. That includes the 2 students who died from the virus last weekend. Vaccinations are being offered across Kent again today. More than 8,000 have already been handed out. Former FBI chief Robert Mueller has died at the age of 81. He was responsible for overseeing an investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 US presidential election. which Donald Trump, of course, won. Mueller was a decorated Vietnam War veteran who also led the FBI in the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks. Barack Obama described him as one of the most respected public servants of our time, but President Trump has said that he is glad Robert Mueller is dead. Entering a football match without a ticket, otherwise known as tailgating, has become a criminal offence today ahead of the Carabao Cup final at Wembley. Offenders across England and Wales will face a 5-year football ban as well as a fine of up to £1,000. It comes more than 5 years after thousands of ticketless fans stormed the stadium for the European Championship final. Those are your headlines. I'll be back with more at 1 o'clock.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Welcome back to Sunday with Michael Portillo, with me, Christopher Hope. Now, in a developing story, government sources tell GB News there are no plans to introduce a temporary cap on profits for energy companies and fuel retailers. That's after Labour's cost of living czar Richard Walker, Lord Walker, reportedly suggested the measure in the Sunday Times. Lord Walker apparently believes a temporary limit would prevent companies exploiting exceptional market conditions created by the conflict in the Middle East. But Number 10 has told us there are no plans for this to happen. Well, earlier, Camilla Tomley spoke to Reform UK's economic spokesman, Robert Jenrick, on the energy and economic crisis facing the UK.
We hear the Prime Minister babbling on about what he's done with the war in Iran. Yeah. But what is he actually doing to help people with the cost of living? People are hurting at the moment. These are practical things he could do. Scrap VAT on domestic fuel. Get rid of the mad net zero subsidies. Get us drilling again in the North Sea.
OK, Robert Jenrick there. Now, joining me now on my panel is the former Conservative Minister Tom Pursglove and the broadcaster and journalist Judita Da Silva. Thank you for joining us today on Portillo. To you first, Judita, surely this is right. You can't start capping profits when they go up, because will the government have to step in if the oil price sunk to depths, which would mean they make losses?
That's actually a good point, because normally when companies enter those situations, you're in quote-unquote what they call in a contract force majeure. In those instances, they do go to governments and ask for bailouts. In this situation, I do agree with Lord Walker. There's a difference between profit and profiteering. You're in a situation where this is inexplicable pressures, but then also look at what the knock-on effects and the broader impact. If you don't put a cap on profits, it's not saying make no profits, put a cap on profit now, it puts the pressure on the consumer. The more pressure you put on the consumer, the domino effect that people will look to the government to help them. But then you're in a situation where, look at it from the other side. There's reports that says that Brent crude for BP, their projected annual profit was going to be $15 billion. And that's if the barrel is trading at $65. Now it's trading at 109. It could go up by another 10 billion. On the back of that, Urals crude that's being traded by Russia, they've just lifted sanctions. So they are going to have a windfall that while they had supply on ships, they had no customer. Now that they can actually have customers, they will be trading those barrels at almost double the profit. That's funding the Russian regime against Ukraine. If you're in a situation where the consumer in Britain is struggling, they're not interested in you sending money to help Ukraine focus on the effort at home. Ukraine is then trapped in a vise. So the obligations you have beyond Britain are now in jeopardy. There is a knock-on effect if you don't cap the prices.
Yeah, Tom Pursglove, you've been a minister in the government. Let's set out what happened today. So Lord Walker, Richard Walker, the former boss of Iceland, he says this: I've asked the government to introduce a temporary profit cap to stop producers and retailers exploiting the crisis to make windfall profits at the expense of consumers. That's in the Sunday Times. A government spokesman moments ago texted me this, saying this, that the government is supporting families struggling with the cost of living. That's their top priority. We continue to take robust action to protect consumers, and sources tell us there are no plans to introduce a temporary profit cap. What's going on here? Why is this guy saying this in the Sunday Times to be said it's not going to happen moments later by Number 10?
Well, these are the real-world downstream pressures of things like what's going on in the Middle East. We look at the Strait of Hormuz and the debate that we had earlier. these are the impacts that people here in the UK are feeling on the back of it, exacerbating an already very difficult situation in terms of these cost pressures that affect households, your viewers, every single day. What's going on here? I just don't see any world where this government would be able to withstand the political pressure that will come from its own backbenchers to do more on this. And this isn't unprecedented. Actually, we had a windfall tax on the energy companies in response to what happened in Ukraine and obviously the situation with Russia and the impact that that had on energy prices. I suspect that the cost of energy sale, Lord Walker, is actually flying a kite for government here. And it seems to me that this is ripe for the next government U-turn to come forward and actually deliver something on.
Well, there's no U-turn because it's not government policy, is it? They've got this independent person saying,
well, they're saying to you they're not going to do this, but let's see.
Let's see. What do you think to this? Will the left, the soft left, the Angela Rayner's of this world, will they be pushing for some form of windfall tax on these energy companies?
I think it's inevitable because putting a profit cap is different from waiting for the taxes on windfall, which is graduated depending on the amount of profit you make. You cannot really depend on that as opposed to just limiting the price day to day that the consumer will have to bear. People like the backbenchers and Angela Rayner will most likely speak up and should speak up because it's something you should be preemptively looking at if you really are concerned with the day-to-day struggles that people will bear. But again, as far as U-turns go, I've tried to defend I've tried it, but I'm tying myself up in yoga positions. They're probably going to U-turn on this as well.
We'll wait and see. Why is the Governor of the Bank of England going to this meeting tomorrow in the Cabinet Office briefing room A, Cobra, with the Prime Minister on cost of living? Why is he involved?
Because the economic pressures that the sort of support that could be being considered are enormous. And it's really interesting that
but why
Jeremy
is he
Hunt...
involved? He's not a politician. He's meant to look after interest rates and protect our gold and not sell it off and that kind of thing.
Well, I think if government wanted to go down the route, for example, of putting in a extensive cost of living support package like we had in the autumn of 2022, you would need the Governor of the Bank of England and the markets to have the pitch rolling that is so...
So it suggests big intervention?
Well, it does. But it's interesting that, for example, today, Jeremy Hunt has come out and said that he would strongly urge the Chancellor not to go down that route, having dealt with the consequences of that previously. I think a more targeted package would be a better option if that's what you choose to do. But there's no one thing that's going to solve this. Personally, I think that it's a dereliction of duty that this government chose to reverse our position on North Sea oil and gas. That is something that they could get on and do today, sign those licences off. Jackdaw, Rosebank, there is an untapped supply there.
But you lost a court case on that, on Rosebank. You know you did. But because of your energy emissions targets. It's your fault, this stuff.
Well, I would
do... always to say it's Labour's fault.
But these are the choices that they have made to not press ahead with trying to get to that oil and gas and to deploy it. And I would argue it's much better for the environment anyway, rather than importing that supply.
I dispute that, no. Less drilling, more diversifying. If anything has indicated that now you have to really look to diversifying energy supply is the situation you are in now. Because from the Gulf War in 1990, where oil barrel prices spiked up again and everybody, oil supplying nations to oil consuming nations, were suffering from it. We're seeing it again. The cycle repeats itself. If you do not diversify energy supply, you are doomed to repeat yourself again.
But the point is, you want proper energy resilience. Yes, you should be doing things like rooftop solar. Of course you should. It makes sense. Self-generation, where you can deliver that, right thing to do. But you should also not be turning face against this ready supply of natural oil and gas that we have, that we could be getting and using, because we're importing it. That is a nonsense.
I mean, the Tories reform, they want to pull that, the gold, the treasure, they call it, under the North Sea out, don't they, if they win?
It blows my mind that there's always this attitude that, well, it's easy, even though everything about it, environmentally, cost-effective-wise managing, is bad. But, you know, it's easy and it's available. Let's go for it. We happen to be in a bad situation, so look to something that's easy to solve it. No, you have to look to making a plan, which you always talk about to successive governments, that will fix the problem permanently. So should this ever happen again, you are not in the same position.
But it's very interesting. For example, even the CEO of Centrica today has come out and been very clear that these are the sorts of options we ought to be looking at. And I think in the circumstances we're in this international climate, surely we want to have greater resilience in terms of our supply of energy and not be as governed by international...
Of course the CEO of Centrica is going to say that, because if it's going to financially benefit him, again, it's a different form of profiteering. All the people that financially benefit from doing something...
What he was saying specifically is about petrol pump prices, not gas. He says that the gas, the LNG issue isn't really a big issue for the UK. It's the petrol pump price that he's warning on.
No, but the entire issue, when you look at LNG prices from the Gulf supply 20% to Europe and the Far East, the broader knock-on effects are all of the things we're discussing. You have to nip this, you have to go to source to find the problem for everything else to be solved.
Tom, Judita, wait there. I've got some breaking news to bring you now, coming to us from the UK Border Force and French patrols. They're responding to small boat sightings in the English Channel ahead of an anticipated surge in illegal arrivals on Monday. In the past hour, GB News has counted 55 people as they were taken to the Border Force Migrant Processing Centre in Dover. We're looking at pictures now on screen of some of those Border Force vessels in Dover. The latest footage is coming in from Dover right now. But Tom, Judita, your thoughts? If I may go to Tom first, you were formerly an immigration minister under the Tory government. It carries on, doesn't it, Tom? That you couldn't stop the boats. This lot can't smash the gangs. Will anyone deal with this problem? It's deeply embarrassing to this government, to this country.
It goes on and on and on.
But why didn't you deal with it, Tom? You were in charge.
What we were doing was we were delivering a wholesale package of reform to try and truly break the business model of the evil criminal gangs. You need a deterrent. You need a willingness to detain and relocate every last arrival. What we've seen is this government dismantle that. The law today is weaker than the law that they inherited, which would have facilitated being able to detain and remove those individuals. Martin Hewitt's resignation as the sort of border chief this week was highly predictable because he's a good man. I know him from policing. He's a good man, but he didn't have a single tool at his disposal to be able to put a stop to this. These are political choices that this government
But it's many tools, and he was trying to pull together many different things with deals with German boat makers, Chinese energy manufacturers. I mean,
Got to sever the link.
It's very hard here for the government to tackle this one. These are individual entrepreneurs putting people into boats, charging 2,000 quid a go, making tens of thousands of pounds per boat. How can the government stop it?
And you cannot refute the fact that they inherited this problem. I mean, the Tory government stopped processing asylum applications to further compound it. But also look to what we've just been discussing. When you think about the problems with the Strait of Hormuz, there's also the supply of fertilizer and helium. Helium that cools data centres, fertilizers that helps with the whole part of the country, part of the world that is in a desert. So they've got food insecurity issues. With food insecurity issues drives desperation and potentially more migrants, which will then result in a similar thing. But even there could be a different surge from a different source. So now you're looking at the kinds of things that fuel these kinds of problems, and that's why you solve them now at source.
These problems are not going to go away. Look, Tom Pursglove and Judita Da Silva, thank you for joining us both on Michael Portillo on Sunday. It's been great to have you both on. Thank you for that. Coming up next, it's been revealed that Prince William is neither a devout Christian nor a frequent churchgoer, like the King and, of course, his late mother Elizabeth were. We'll have more on that next. This, of course, is Sunday with Michael Portillo, but with me, Christopher Hope, only on GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Well, you talk about historical figures. There's a couple of historical figures sat right at the side of you. I think you should stick them a pair on a £5.
We're not on a banknote.
Yeah, on a £5 note, a couple of rainbows on, and Bob's your uncle. I mean, it's just ridiculous, mate. I mean, Winston Churchill, one of our greatest heroes of all time, he led us to victory. If it weren't for Sir Winston, we'd all be...
Who was that? You can't see that on your screen.
Is that you, Dobby?
That's me. He's got a better £5 note.
You look like...
Hey, they call you 30p, you're £10.
£10, yeah, I've changed my name now. Have we got Chopper and Nigel?
Hey, Nigel Nelson. How come Nigel Nelson got the £50
That's inflation.
note?
That's inflation.
It should be a euro.
No, I'm not on it. No, it's just not. It's again. It's
£10 Chopper. There you go. Thank you very much, whoever did that mischief. And by the way, Nigel Nelson should be on a euro. People like Winston Churchill stopped real Nazis, and now they call people like you Nazis,
yeah, I mean,
because they've lost context.
What's his occupation? Birdwatcher.
Yeah.
Listen, mate, these people need to get a grip. You know, the people in my community are incredibly proud of our country. They're very patriotic. They sing the national anthem, they fly the flag, and when they see this nonsense and this bird twitcher, whoever it is, I don't know who he is, they get really, really angry. And I'll tell you what they do get angry with, when Nigel Nelson comes out with this nonsense about, you know, our stamps and our coinage changing every so many years.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
We're not wiping out Winston Churchill.
You are.
From
You are.
no,
That's exactly what you're doing.
You're changing a banknote. It's not a big deal.
Why aren't you on this show defending Winston Churchill, saying he should be on these banknotes?
I will defend Winston Churchill.
Defend him right now.
He doesn't have to be on every single banknote.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get us on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Sunday with Michael Portillo, with me, Christopher Hope. Now, we're thrilled to announce, and we really are thrilled, that GB News Breakfast has once again been nominated for Best News Programme at the Trick Industry Awards. We've won this award for the past 3 years. We want to win it for a 4th year. And we couldn't have done all of this without your support, our brilliant, loyal listeners and viewers. But we need you to vote for us if you want to. Please do so. Scan the QR code on screen now or go to poll-trick, that's tric.org.uk, and vote for us there. Thank you so much for all of your support and for always tuning in to the greatest news channel. Now, the Prince of Wales, our future king, has disclosed that his quiet faith and commitment to the Church of England, ending years of speculation about his religious beliefs. William is neither a devout Christian nor a frequent churchgoer like the King and late Queen Elizabeth. As a result, his dedication to the church he'll lead one day has faced repeated questioning. Should the future king be so open about his lack of faith? And also, Dame Sarah Mullally, the new Archbishop of Canterbury, is finishing her pilgrimage to Canterbury today ahead of her official installation as Archbishop of Canterbury, the first woman to hold that role, on Wednesday. Joining me now is the Reverend Stephen Kerr, the Vicar of Christ Church, New Malden. Thank you, Reverend Kerr, and thank you for seeing us on a Sunday when you're very busy, of course. This is the front page of the Sunday Times. I don't always go to church, but I do believe, says William. Now, it's sourced to friends of the Prince of Wales. No reason to question the reporting, of course. But is it worrying for Christians to see that the head of the Church of England doesn't always go to church? Surely he should be setting the example.
No, what God wants is honesty, and what people, I think, want as well from leaders is honesty. And I've just come from church and preaching on Psalm 88, which is a psalm where the person who wrote it pours out to God that they feel abandoned and desolate and all the things going wrong in their life. And that's a valid form of prayer. So when Prince William is honest about the fact that faith doesn't always resonate with him, I mean, he has made a sort of positive statement here. He's talked about his quiet faith, but he's not just putting on an act. And I think we should welcome that. And we must remember that Prince William lost his mother when he was 15. And if that happens to anyone, however important and however sort of powerful their position, it does make faith something very difficult, very demanding. So if he's making his way, like all of us do, through life, with faith sometimes making greater sense than it does at other points, then we should welcome his honesty. And I think it's nothing to worry about. In fact, I think it's a good sign of him showing integrity.
It reminds me, though, of course, when David Cameron said that his faith came and went like Magic FM in the Chilterns, that radio station sometimes with a difficult signal. But it matters more when you're the head of the Church of England, as his father is, the King, and now Prince William. He says his feeling is that I may not be at church every day, but I do believe in it. I want to support it. This is my important aspect of my role and the next role. I mean, it sounds to me he's supporting it, the Church of England, but not believing in God. Is that a problem, or is it only a matter if he supports it as in the church?
I wouldn't want to press the words that strongly, Christopher. I would want to say, you know, that he has made a strong commitment of his commitment to be... He's taking his responsibility seriously. But, you know, if we think that all of the kings ever since Henry VIII took over the church and made himself in charge of it, if we think all of them have had a wonderful, active Christian faith, we're being a little bit naive. You know, we've had some absolute rogues who've been kings of this country. Most of the queens have been okay, but we've had some absolute rogues who've been kings, and they've still been head of the church. And I think William compares pretty favourably to some of the other ones who've gone before. But of course, you'd never have had this debate happening in the media during their reigns. So I welcome his honesty. I think that's okay, and I think actually we should encourage that, because as I say, he's had a lot to cope with, and not just in the past, but in the present.
Yes.
And I hope that he quite often, I mean, Prince Charles, when he was Prince Charles, got quite a lot of criticism for it, saying he wanted to be a defender of faith rather than a defender of the faith. And we can rather forget all of that. And the Queen, I'm sure, would have had her moments as well when, you know, she had an annus horribilis. And I would have thought during that year it was pretty hard to see God being very clearly alongside her. And that's the Christian life. You know, we go through times when God seems very, very distant, and other times when he appears very real and very near.
Thank you. Well, Stephen Kirk, we're talking about Prince William's faith because he'll be in Canterbury Cathedral on Wednesday for the enthronement of Dame Sarah Mullally. She's the new Archbishop of Canterbury. He's there representing the King. Of course, the King is the Supreme Governor of the Church of England. This is historic. There'll be 2,000 people there, of course. She's the 106th Archbishop of Canterbury, the first woman to hold that role in 1,400 years. This is quite a moment for the Church, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Very, very significant. 106th Archbishop and the first to be a woman, and I wish her well. I mean, she's got really her work cut out. It's a very, very tough assignment. You're almost sort of bound to fail, but this is where, you know, Christians need to pray for Sarah Mullally, that she'll have wisdom. It's very difficult. There are some issues on which whatever you do, you will be shot at from, you know, very, very fiercely from one side. Most obviously, all the debates about sexuality in the Church of England, she simply can't win on that issue, however she tries to sort of, you know, come between the very different sort of strong opinions on that issue. But hopefully she's going to be a good leader for the Church of England and also the Anglican Communion, because, of course, it's a worldwide movement.
Yes. Well, just on that point, there has been some concern in the African Church, hasn't there, about having a woman leading the Anglican Communion. Do you think the Church of England has made a misstep here? They are risking a breach, aren't they, in the Church?
Well, I'm a very, very firm supporter of women's full ministry. And we've got to be very careful in church life that we don't go at the pace of the most conservative people. And the Church of England decided a good time ago that women vicars back in 1992, then women bishops a few years ago. And it would be completely wrong, I think, to have made this post not available to a woman because we didn't want to upset our brothers and sisters in other parts of the world. We still very much want to be in relationship with those who take a different view. And a lot of church life is about staying together when we disagree quite fundamentally about issues. And that's an important part. And she's got a good temperament. I mean, she's made quite big mistakes in safeguarding when she was Bishop of London. I think that's a major disadvantage. But she's an earnest, thoughtful, prayerful Christian. And I wish her well in that responsibility and role.
And you've met her before?
No, I haven't actually. No, I've met the previous Archbishop, her predecessor. She was a vicar not far away from where I am. She was a vicar in Sutton, but I don't think I have met her. But you know, people who know her, she comes with a high reputation. I mean, being a cancer nurse, you know, is just brilliant experience.
Yeah.
You know, taking that sort of responsibility. She was head nurse at the age of only 37. You know, she really does know what it's like to be on the front line doing stuff, you know, life and death situations with people. And that can only be good in the church's leader.
Listen, Reverend Stephen Kurt from New Malden, thank you for joining us on a very busy day for you. I know, of course, being at church yourself there. Now, coming up next, a new portrait of the former Deputy Prime Minister, Nick Clegg, has gone viral, but for all the wrong reasons. There it is. What do you think of it? What's the history of politics and portraiture? But first, here's your news with the great Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you, Chris. Good afternoon. 12:31 the time. Our headlines. Iran has vowed to destroy US-linked energy sites across the Middle East and keep oil prices high if President Trump follows through on his threat to target Iranian power plants unless the Strait of Hormuz is opened within 48 hours. Elsewhere, more than 180 people have been injured in southern Israel following a wave of Iranian attacks. The government says there's no need to cap the profits of energy firms, despite the turbulence in the price of oil and gas caused by the conflict, because prices, the government says, will fall next month. The idea had been floated by Labour's cost of living advisor, Lord Walker. A Kent police officer died in the line of duty after his vehicle was involved in a collision with another car. PC Bradley Cork, who was 27, passed away yesterday after being fatally injured on Thursday. The number of confirmed and suspected meningitis cases in Kent has fallen to 29. The UK Health Security Agency says the number's down from 34 yesterday, after some cases confirmed were downgraded following further tests. And the world's first theme park devoted to video game Minecraft is set to open in the UK next year. The £50 million project will be at Chessington World of Adventures in southwest London. I know Chris is a big fan of Minecraft, so I'll hand you back to him now. More news coming up at the top of the hour.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker.
Just say, play GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. We do have increasing cloud from the north today, but some hazy spells of sunshine after a foggy start in the south. And there will be a bit of patchy rain around, and that's in association with this cold front. It's a weak feature, but it will slowly push its way southwards through Sunday and into the early hours of Monday. So for this afternoon, cloud and patchy rain across parts of Wales into the Midlands, northern England. Either side of this, some sunny spells. Best of the sunshine and warmth holding on to southeast England. Cooler weather following for parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland with showers, which may be a little wintry over the higher ground here. Temperatures between 9 and 12 Celsius, but up to around 16 Celsius in the hazy sunshine across southern England. Into the evening time, a fairly cloudy end to the day across much of England and Wales. A band of patchy rain slowly sinking its way southwards, but still on the mild side. Temperatures around 10 to 12 Celsius. Bright skies to end the day for parts of Northern Ireland into Scotland, with a scattering of showers here. Some of these falling as snow over the higher grounds. It's feeling colder here as the wind starts picking up during the evening as well. We could start to see some gales around the coasts. Overnight tonight, the cloud and patchy rain across England and Wales just continues to filter southwards but eases, and then it's dry for most of us overnight with clear spells. 1 or 2 mist and fog patches in places. A few showers still across the far north of Scotland. 1 or 2 of these on the heavy side, but the vast majority dry. Where we see the clearest skies, a patchy frost possible. Towns and cities generally a few degrees above freezing. So on Monday, a mixed start to the day, mist and fog in places to start, but generally dry for most with some sunny spells coming and going through the day. But it is turning cloudier, wetter and windier across the northwest through into the afternoon. Outbreaks of rain for Northern Ireland and northwest Scotland as well. The wind's picking up. Temperatures in the southeast up to 16 degrees once again.
I've been in Westminster for a long time.
But I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis.
In the car. In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there.
With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it? We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Sunday with Michael Portillo, with me, Christopher Hope. Now, this week, a new portrait of the former Deputy Prime Minister and Lib Dem leader Nick Clegg was unveiled. Here it is. Now, the painting has attracted some criticism from the artistic and the political. Artist Frances Bell defended her work, saying the painting is deliberately simple so as to carry over a huge room from a height. Well, the political editor of the Daily Mail, Jason Groves, said this. Presumably it was painted by somebody who went to university shortly after tuition fees were trebled. Perhaps Mr Clegg would prefer this portrait of him by Brendan Kelly. That was praised for capturing an unnerving, accurate portrayal of the former Lib Dem leader. The reaction to the new painting has sparked a big debate on the relationship between politics and portraiture. Here's the former Prime Minister Theresa May looking rather austere in a painting from Sae Dai, which hangs in Portcullis House in the House of Parliament. Commentators said this portrait of Boris Johnson by Richard Stone did him many favours, with some saying he was slimmed down for the painting. But what about this? One of Winston Churchill, a painting he hated so much that he burnt it, of course, by Graham Sutherland. We can't forget, of course, Michael Portillo. He's usually sat here on the sofa. Here's a portrait of him by a lovely viewer. What do you think? You got all the themes there: a dreadful shirt, a book, and of course his delight in trains. I guess all the themes are captured there, Michael. And of course, Michael, we miss you. We look forward to seeing you back in coming weeks. So what's the history of politics and portraits? With me now is the art critic and historian Estelle Lovett. Estelle, what do you make of that painting of Nick Clegg by Frances Bell? He seemed to be stooping more than he does in real life on the painting.
Yeah, I mean, the idea with portraiture is that it's obviously meant to be more than just a record of a human being. It's meant to perhaps look like the person or embrace a likeness. When it doesn't, there is a problem. Don't forget, portraiture goes right back well before photography and the role of the camera with portraiture, right back to ancient Egypt. And it's meant to show one's authority, one's status, one's influence. Doesn't matter if they're attractive or not, if they're wealthy or not.
Yes.
But to show the sitter. But it's not unusual that we have this dilemma with portraiture. If you think back to our greatest portrait painter of contemporary times, Lucian Freud, you know, and the painting that he did of the late Queen Elizabeth II, which is, incidentally, it's very interesting because some portrait painters will say, I'll only paint you if you're close friend or family, which is why David Hockney never painted the late Queen Elizabeth II and hasn't so far painted a portrait of King Charles.
No, I guess in today's world where there's photographs everywhere of all these people, it's very hard to do a portrait because we know what the person looks like. In the old days, of course, that portrait was the way the king was presented or the queen was presented. But now we see them everywhere. We're so familiar with them. If they don't look exactly like them, we think it's a bit rubbish.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also how we see people. We see people through their portraits. The portrait captures an idea of the person or what the person stands for or what the person would like to be seen as standing or experiencing. You know, so you've got, for example, Sargent's portraits of very beautiful, gorgeous women, and then you've got Hogarth's paintings, which depicted people quite unflatteringly, which is why he didn't get too many portrait commissions, but embracing the muscle and the male significance, and how a person's story is told through their body language, through their facial expression. Oscar Wilde, The Picture of Dorian Gray, sort of sums it up, really. But we can bring it right up to date with Trump and that bust of Winston Churchill. It's a sculpture, a portrait sculpture at the Oval Office. Obama didn't want it.
I mean,
Trump
I don't know why Francis Bell pictured Nick Clegg stooping like that, because I don't recall that's how he carried himself in real life. Perhaps that was an idea that he kind of gave too much away to the Tories in coalition. He was a bit too subservient to the main party, maybe. But we saw that picture earlier of Boris Johnson. It was said at the time he looks quite slimmer than in real life. There we are, look at that. We have got some footage of him in real life. Let's see how much he looks like him. Yeah, there we are. There's our former Prime Minister looking exactly not like that picture in the painting. I mean, is that what's going? I mean, perhaps Hockney would paint that picture rather than the one that we saw in the painting.
Yeah, but listen, don't forget, to paint a picture, it's all about picture making and making it as attractive as possible. You know, if we think back to His Majesty King Charles III, the Red Point portrait recently by Jonathan Yeo, you know, of King Charles in his Red Guards uniform with above his red shoulder there was that butterfly, which symbolically is his accession to the throne, and his love of nature and life. And Queen Camilla said to Jonathan Yeo, yes, you've got him, you know.
I think...
But with the Graham Sutherland one of Winston Churchill, you're all quite right about that one. Winston Churchill and his wife, they both hated it, and it was destroyed within a year.
Yes, and I think that was a rough draft of it, which has been maintained. Is this because you've got two things here? You've got how the politician sees themselves, and how the artist sees a politician, and those two things don't marry up, and that's where this clash comes in.
Yeah, exactly. And don't forget, a lot of times as well, it's dependent on the scale of the canvas, where it's to be hung. And if they're over life size, it can be a very commanding, quite scary project, really, and you're there. It's not just the person that's depicted, but you're there as the artist in the canvas too. You're symbolized there too. Your story is told too. And you know, why did Rembrandt do so many portraits? Because he did so many to show that he could capture a likeness even as people as aged. So you've got to keep painting, you've got to keep going.
That's right. There's been some controversy this week because the government gave away free portraits of the King to public bodies. 20,000 or so were created, over £100 each, costing many millions of pounds. The idea being that our public institutions hang them where they are. Now, every single lifeboat station took one. There's a picture now of the King. Every single coroner's office took one, but only 3% of hospital managers wanted one, and just 7% of universities. Why do you think there's this kind of nervousness about a portrait, and that causes a photograph of the King?
Many reasons. You know, the way that we've become today, it's interesting how having an image up on the wall says so much about us. And unfortunately, we've come to a stage where we are quite afraid to say a lot about what we think and how we are. But, you know, the portraits celebrate a person, an event, and they commemorate a friendship. They're used as a diplomatic gift. They're powerful. And we're losing power, maybe.
Yeah, well, let's perhaps re-own that space. Listen, I still love it. It's great to have you on to discuss portraits and politicians. Thank you for coming on. Now, coming up, do we really know what happened at the Battle of Hastings in 1066? We all learned about it at school, but apparently the history wasn't quite right. We've got a researcher on who says we can find out more about this, and there, of course, is the Bayeux Tapestry on screen. This is Sunday with Michael Portillo, but not with him, with me, Christopher Hope, only on GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Be nice to escape the grey.
Clear skies, here we come.
As clear as our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. Storm Therese has been bringing some very unsettled weather to the Canary Islands in recent days, and we'll continue to see some strong winds and potentially some flooding here over the next day or two, particularly for the western Canary Islands, but there'll be some showers for Madeira too. Iberia, though, will settle down with plenty of sunshine for Spain and Portugal. 1 or 2 showers for the central Med, particularly southern parts of Italy, the Balkans, Greece and Turkey. A few thunderstorms perhaps as well. But the worst of the weather, the thundery showers at least, will be across Tenerife over the next few days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Pork pies. They're widely regarded as a classic British snack dating back to the 18th century.
But Tesco's recent survey found that a third of youngsters have never tried the savoury treat.
Outrageous. So the retailer have now released a limited edition pork pie-inspired sandwich. Here it is here. We've got one procured to try it out. But the idea of this is to give the youngsters of today all the chance to enjoy this nostalgic British classic, even if it's not a real pork pie, but a sandwich that has been flavoured as such.
That's a load of processed meat flattened together like a slice of it. There's a slither in there with a bit of cheese. We're joined now by the owners of Fuller's Butchers and Farm Shop, Steve Fuller and Lily Fuller. Welcome.
Basically, we make our own pork pies. We sell about 400 a week, and yeah, I mean, to me, I'd say they're becoming more popular. Actually, I mean, they're a great snack. You can take them on a picnic. You've got the nice crispy pastry and the nice juicy pork meat inside. So
now I can see you're holding up those pork pies. We have got pork pies flavoured sandwiches here. I wonder if it's time to do a bit of a taste test. Perhaps you could bite into your pork pie there in your farm shop. We'll have a bite of this Tesco sandwich and see how it all feels. It's not going to be great for the listeners on the radio, but here we go. I think they've captured the essence of one. This is an excellent I can't speak with my mouth full of sandwich.
You ate too much, that was where you
I did.
GB News, the People's Channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
the late edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
Because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, late edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, late edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Sunday with Michael Portillo, with me, Christopher Hope. Now, this autumn, the Bayeux Tapestry that told the story of the Battle of Hastings in 1066 is coming to Britain. However, new research suggests the historians have got the Battle of Hastings all wrong for decades. I'm joined Professor Tom Licence at the University of East Anglia. He says the King Harold's march to the famous battle then didn't happen. He goes as far to say it was implausible. They may have gone by sea instead and therefore weren't left exhausted when they arrived. With me now to share more is the author of The Story of the Bayeux Tapestry, Dr. Dave Musgrove. Dr. Musgrove, thank you for joining us. Were you aware of this, that actually Harold sailed from Stamford Bridge in Yorkshire to Kent for the battle rather than marching his troops so they were tired?
Well, I became aware last week when I studied the research from Professor Tom Licence, who is, to be clear, one of our leading medieval historians based at the University of East Anglia. So, but before that, no, I hadn't considered it to be a possibility. I followed the orthodoxy, which was that Harold had marched his men back down from the Battle of Stamford Bridge, which is up in Yorkshire, down to Hastings in short order. So, yeah, very interesting research.
And is it right, and does it affect the story of the Bayeux Tapestry? You've written a book about it.
Well, is it right? I think there is a little bit of dispute amongst medieval historians. Tom hasn't actually presented his research officially. There's a conference that's happening next week, so there may be some further conversation then. I think basically Tom's idea, it revolves around the fact that there's a misreading of the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, this famous chronicle that charts the history of the English people from the time of Alfred up beyond 1066, and he reckons that there's a phrase in that chronicle which says that Harold sent his ships home. So he'd massed his fleet and his army in the south of England ready for William to invade, because he knew that William might turn up in 1066. But then in September, basically, he'd been waiting there for a while, couldn't do it any longer, and sent his ships home. Now, Tom reckons that's a misreading of the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, and that's not correct. And when he sent ships home, it meant that he basically just sent them back to London, so they were ready for Harold to use. So, what does it tell us about the story of the Battle of Hastings? Well, it allows us to think about the conception of Harold and this idea that he was kind of, when he got back to Hastings, he was tired, his troops were tired, and he was really on the winds of fortune. He didn't really have much of a chance. Whereas if we follow Tom Licence's view, then it says that actually it was a much more even battle. Harold was a much savvier operator and had got his fleet ready and was operating by both land and sea. Now, the Bayeux Tapestry line, that is fascinating because you will not see any of this in the Bayeux Tapestry. If you go to the British Museum in September and you think, I want to see Harold's ships coming down from the north, you won't see them because the tapestry completely excludes the story of the north of England. It doesn't talk about the Battle of Fulford Gate, which was a battle that was fought before the Battle of Stamford Bridge, and it doesn't cover Stamford Bridge either. It's a very southern-centric reading of the story of 1066. So that, in itself, is fascinating.
And just finally on that, we're looking on screen now at the Bayeux Tapestry. That is coming to the UK this autumn. That is a big moment for us. Our history as a country is all set out there, the beginnings of England.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very exciting, Christopher. I hope you'll be going. I will be in the queue to go and see it. The tapestry is one of the most important sources for medieval history, and it has a raw power. It speaks to us because of the pure energy of its imagery, and I would imagine that it's going to be an enormous cultural event. People will be queuing around the block to go and see it. It'll be as big as the Tutankhamun exhibition from 1972. It's going to be a real cultural moment.
An absolute blockbuster. Listen, Dr. Dave Musgrove, an expert in that tapestry. Thank you for joining us today on Michael Portillo, on Sunday with Michael Portillo, of course. The great man is back next week in a shirt and a jacket to match. I'll be on TV, of course, reporting for politics for GB News all week. Coming up next is my pal, Dawn Neeson. The weekend with Dawn Neeson starts now. Dawn, what's on your show?
Thank you very much, Mr. Hope. We've got an amazing show for you. The missile threat from Iran, obviously. The even greater threat that I think is on London streets. Why white working class boys are still failing. And the maddest pub story you'll ever hear, all after the weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. We do have some patchy rain pushing slowly southwards over the next few hours, and then it generally turns clear overnight, and for most of us it will be dry tomorrow. The patchy rain is an association with this weather front, which is pushing its way southwards, but most of us probably will just see increasing amounts of cloud as we head through into the evening time, 1 or 2 splashes of rain on it, but clearer skies following on behind tonight with scattered showers across parts of Northern Ireland and northwest Scotland. Some of the showers could be heavy across northwest Scotland and a little wintry over the high ground too. Clearer spells following overnight with some fog patches in places as winds fall light across England and Wales, temperatures down to low single figures. So a chilly start again on Monday morning, a mixture of sunny spells and showers across northern Scotland. 1 or 2 of these on the wintry side, particularly over the higher ground. Temperatures near freezing in places, so a frosty start for some of us. Some mist and fog patches too. A rather cloudy start. Hazy skies across parts of Northern Ireland, northern England too, but largely dry across much of England and Wales, though fairly cloudy skies to begin with, some mist and fog patches and a fairly chilly feel out there, but this soon lifting and breaking to allow plenty of sunny spells through the day on Monday. The cloud increasing though across Northern Ireland into Scotland through into the afternoon. The wind picking up too as outbreaks of rain moves in from the Atlantic, so a wet afternoon to come here, but generally dry for England and Wales. Best of the sunshine in the southeast, temperatures lifting to around 15 or 16 Celsius. Cooler in the northwest with gales around the coast, temperatures around 9 or 10 degrees. And that rain continues to push its way eastwards across Scotland as we go through the evening on Monday. Some patchy rain perhaps for northern England too, but most places staying dry. Another fairly warm day on Tuesday, but then turning much colder into Wednesday as a northerly wind develops.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's a prize package worth over £92,000. There's a totally tax-free £25,000 in cash that you'll be able to spend on anything you like this year. Plus, you'll also get to drive away in a brand new Benevan 122 camper van. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, this latest 2026 model comes fully loaded with everything you'd expect. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there.
With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right.
GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air
gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, it's 1 o'clock on Sunday, the 22nd of March, and this is the weekend on GB News. Thank you so much for your company. Big show coming up, the first hour for you. The war in Iran continues to escalate as President Trump gives Iran a 48-hour ultimatum to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, or else. What's the else, though? Also, new information suggests that Iran's missiles, get this, could reach London. We'll be giving you the latest on that one. And meanwhile, Reform MP Robert Jenrick launches a stinging attack on the Prime Minister, claiming that Sir Keir Starmer is so scared of the loony left, not my words, his, that Polanski from the Green Party is actually running the country instead from the back seat. Does he have a point, though? And love this story. Why has a pub in Gloucestershire found itself in the middle of a row about its name? Well, we'll be cutting through all the mess on that one and telling you very shortly. And there's more net zero madness, when isn't there? As it's revealed that the government will rip up planning rules and enable wind turbines to be built that could interfere with defence radar system. I mean, what could possibly go wrong there? And Tory peer Lord Sewell will warn the PM that Britain has failed white working class boys, who remain, 5 years after Lord Sewell's report, the worst performing group in England's school. What on earth is going wrong with our kids? And Prince William, yes, opens up on his religion, confirming that he has a quiet faith. What does he mean by that, though? And what does it indicate about how he'll take his future role as the head of the church? And, of course, it's a big day in football with a cup final and a few key relegation battles, flack off, happening. And why has a new law been brought in to tackle football tailgating? I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is The Weekend. So thank you so much for your company today. For those of you that were enduring me yesterday, I'm feeling much better, so no more coughing and spluttering, but the sore throat is still there. I also want to, if you were joining me yesterday, talk about a little bit later on in the programme about yesterday's show and one of the Muslim commentators we had on there, because it has caused a bit of a stir. And I want to talk to you about some of the reaction me personally and the programme has had online from it. Some of the comments you will find shocking. So we will be talking about that later on the show. But we've got an absolute packed show for you, including, yes, a trip to the pub while we still can before it's banned or cancelled or whatever they're trying to do to it. So whatever you're doing today, get in touch, let me know your thoughts on all the stories we're discussing today, or just have a natter. It is a Sunday afternoon. You've got